Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. It's such an exciting day. I live in Boston, so I was able to escape the heat wave, so really thrilled, extra thrilled to be here. But I'm really excited to talk about our vision and what we see coming, not just this year, but going forward for product managers. Really, it is a new world. So I'm going to start with an example, and it's a personal example. It's one that I've lived. How many people here know Zipcar? All right. So I headed up product. I started at Zipcar in 2015. And the day that I started, I went to an offsite with our parent company. And Uber had been around. Uber actually came to London, I just double-checked, in 2012, and in New York in 2011. So Uber was starting to really, take off. And someone from our parent company said, "Oh, don't worry about Uber. They're just going to take a few of our use cases, not a big deal." And I'm like, all right, I'm just starting the job, it's fine, we have a plan, So we move forward as we would expect with our roadmap that we had planned. And what I watched and witnessed was unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like this. I'd, learned in my prior life, it's so hard to change user expectations. People don't change that much. It's really, really hard to change the way people think about things. But I will tell you, in no time flat, I'm telling you, within 18 months, people's expectations from when I started in 2015 until we really got moving with our roadmap and some changes changed dramatically. People now with Uber, they didn't want to have a car that they were going to drive somewhere and they were going to have it sit for 3 hours and then drive back. They didn't want to pay for that anymore because of Uber. They actually didn't want to plan anymore. With Zipcar, you had to plan. You had to book in advance and plan to have that car for the afternoon to go to IKEA. They didn't want to do that anymore. And the whole drinking and driving thing is real. People did not want to take a Zipcar and be their designated driver. They wanted to plan for Uber to bring them home. It had a massive impact on our business, and I don't think anyone realized that things would change as dramatically as they did, but they did. And here I am living another time, 9 years later, where, my gosh, the world is changing dramatically right before my eyes. User expectations are changing. ChatGPT, was last summer. I think we were all just giddy with excitement, maybe a year and a half ago. And last summer, we had sort of this sit down, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to take advantage of everything that's happening with these LLMs? And we had our own machine learning as well that had actually really taken off, and we needed to find the right application, and what were we going to do with it? Well, we had a plan for our roadmap, but in 2023, last summer, we blew up our roadmap and restarted. Oh my gosh, restarted. Talk about disruption. But we had to do it. I live the Zipcar thing. When things start to change, you can't just sit by and sort of watch the world move and you sit still. There are plenty of examples like that. You all may have some in your background as well. But once you have it, you almost have PTSD from it. And you don't want it to ever happen to you again. So our roadmap changed. And it continues to change as we learn and the technology changes and evolves. But what I want to talk about a little bit kind of initially is our roadmap and how do you even tackle it in this changing world? All right, look at Microsoft. I mean, some of these dinosaurs, these tech dinosaurs are just unbelievable. It is amazing to me, some of these companies that I kind of counted out, honestly, years ago, are reinventing themselves. They are doing things that you would never guess that they would be able to pull off, but they have the resources, and if they're able to make those pivots, they're able to move forward. And it's really exciting, honestly, to watch these companies do something that I think, we really didn't think that they would do. And then, oh yes, there are the AI startups. Some of you may be from some of those. And they're not just ankle biters. These are not just ankle biters. This is a little bit the dot-com time when there were just so many companies that came out of nowhere, just so much energy. Obviously, there's so much funding going to these companies. Y Combinator, which is an organization that helps startups get going, had 86 AI startups last year, 86. And in the class that ended in April, that's double what they had a year before. So this is a time of explosion. And what's exciting is some of them will be disruptors, right? Maybe disruptors to our own business, but they're going to push us all forward. They're going to push us all forward to do better. So I'm excited. They're fun to play with. Definitely check them out. Some of them maybe won't make it, but a bunch of them will. A bunch of them will. So when you think about all these changes, you think about your roadmap and your life as a product manager, what you're trying to accomplish, you still have your day job of driving to outcomes. Maybe your boss is saying, oh, we got to take care of churn. You got to focus on that. And we got to move up market. And well, now we're a platform. So, that means we have to have intersections across our product. And oh, that tech debt, the engineers are going to, have my head if we do not put more time to that. And maybe this has happened to me a few times. The tech debt gets so bad, you've been putting it off, that you have to re-platform. Oh, these things take a lot of development time. And then always the expand globally. How are you going to do that? How are you going to set up your product so that you can be everywhere you want to be? And then, oh yeah, there's the people. There are always the people things. When I look at my day, it's a lot of times the people things. So our day job continues, and we still need to respond to what's happening out in the world. Nothing really changes there. It's kind of more, right? It's just more to think about. But again, you have to prioritize. And as product managers, we are masters at prioritizing. So overall, I would say being a product manager has changed and will continue to change. I was just thinking about this morning. I've been in product management since I was 23 years old, so a long time. And we are in a stage of the last few years, and I see what's coming, a dramatic change going forward for product managers. So gone are the days of ignoring feedback. So I'm not saying ignoring, but really there were days, okay, good to have that feedback, but I'm going to go and build this. Those days are gone. The reality is the world is changing so quickly, and consumer end user expectations are changing, that if you don't listen very, very closely, you're going to miss something. So paying attention to that really, really matters. Another thing we're going to talk about is manually triaging, right? So not only is that feedback coming in, you should not be manually triaging anything, right? Now there's AI to do that. Don't spend your time. Humans don't do that work anymore. Same thing with writing summaries. We do a lot of writing, a lot of summarizing, same information, different formats as product people. You're not doing that anymore. Those days are over. Also roadmaps, so that 12-month, 18-month roadmap, that's not really a thing. You might have an idea of what it's going to be, and that's always valuable. But what's really important is to stay close to your customers and share your roadmap and be collaborative with them, because they're moving along quickly as well, and you definitely want their input along the way. The next one is the wait and see. Do not want to wait and see. Do not pull a zip car. You definitely don't want to wait and see. This is happening. This train has left the station, and you got to be part of it. Lastly here is really thinking about your product and what does it mean. If you're developing a feature, it's not done just because you finished the feature, right? You're always trying to drive to outcomes. So one of the stats that I don't love, but I find interesting, that 80% of all features developed aren't used. 80%, oh my gosh. So, our development resources are so incredibly valuable. So you really want to make sure that whatever you're developing is having an impact on business outcomes. And it used to be, back in the day, you actually kind of had no idea what was happening. You develop these features, you set them live, and you're not, well, maybe this had an impact, maybe it didn't. But now actually we do, right? Now we're able to tie that usage data all the way through to retention, to churn, to conversion. Super, super important. And it also creates a world where instead of just checking the box and saying, hey, I delivered the thing, I did my job, you're actually instead saying, how do I get people to use this thing? I'm placing a bet on this, and I believe that it can do this. So I'm going to work a little bit more. I'm going to drive to an input metric that I think will drive conversion or retention. And you're able to monitor that with data. So, the times have changed. As a PM, it used to be, you'd look, oh, in the last year I shipped these nine features. Now it's, here's the impact I had on the business. We are all becoming business leaders, all of us product managers, which is fun and exciting, but also puts more responsibility and more emphasis on growing your business. So in general, there are sort of 3 areas, and I'm going to kind of walk through them, that I think product managers need to really pay attention to. The first one is adapt to dynamic user expectations. And I'm saying dynamic because they are changing. They are changing, and we don't always know exactly how they're going to change. Leverage AI to drive value, and prioritize speed and agility. All things, we've cared about, but now they really, really matter, right? That prioritization, that ruthless prioritization is super, super important. So let's think about us as product managers. We'll use us as the case study around adapting to user expectations. So many of us are not, next slide, triaging anything anymore. So I mentioned that a little bit, but we're not doing it anymore. So 18 months ago I was. 18 months ago I was going through a bunch of feedback. I was, trying to parse through gong calls just to understand how's our new feature doing or where's this problem in our free product. We're not doing that anymore. Many of us have completely moved past that. Again, 18 months, total change in how we think about doing our job. And why does that matter? It matters because it's a huge part of being a product manager. We're gathering lots of information. We want to know our customers intimately. We want to know how they feel, what they care about. We want to understand their persona. So we're kind of junkies for any information about our customers. The problem is that, my gosh, it just comes in all over the place, right? And it becomes unmanageable. So our pain point is really, really high. Our need, our attraction to a tool that can help us triage is really, really high. You might be getting in Slack, you might be getting notes from a sales call that someone had. Again, you might be listening to a gong call. You might have a customer advisory board that's showing up on your Slack. You might have user testing transcripts. I mean, you just have a ton. And us as product managers, we're really busy. We're really busy. So when you start to take that off your plate and you look at that pain point and how AI can help you, it's incredible. Now you can get summaries. Now you can get insights. So the world is changing, and we, even as product managers, are changing our expectations, right? I don't want to summarize anymore. I don't want to triage anymore. I want someone to do that for me. And then I can drill down and focus in on what really matters. And also the flip side of even capturing feedback. So I love this Sprout Social. They have a way that you can capture feedback, right, from your customers. But as we know, if you ask a slightly different question, you might get a slightly different answer. And so wouldn't it be fun to do multivariate tests, right, and try 10 different versions? Well, instead of sitting at your desk coming up with the 10 different versions, you can use an LLM, and before you know it, you're ready to go. And they built this right into their product. So even as product managers, the way we're thinking about the world is changing. Now we all want to leverage AI. There's been a lot of chat about it, but I'm going to talk you through some really practical ways of how to update your roadmap so that you can do something with it. And there are kind of 2 parts to this. So there's the you and your product of what you're trying to do. But then there's also how do you and your product team and those that you work with leverage and take advantage of AI. So I'm going to spend most of my time, the next few slides, talking about how you can build your roadmap and how you can incorporate it. I think many of us are familiar with this concept of painkiller versus vitamin. If you can come up with a solution that's a painkiller, that's going to be a winner. A vitamin, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what's happened now is there are a bunch of pains that we haven't even addressed, that may be customer pains that we haven't even thought about trying to address because it's hard, right? We had no way to solve them. So you might have a new set of pains that you are now thinking about. So highly recommend honing in on the pains. There are new pains that you can solve that you haven't done before. And so really there are two different things that you can do, and they'll work really, really nicely together. The first thing that I recommend is go through your product. Do an audit of your product. Think about everything you know about AI, all the LLMs, summarization, insights, think about recommendations. We'll talk more about personalization. What are all the things you could do? Just go nuts, do an audit, put everything out there. And then at the same time, go back to your list. We're product managers. We always care about solving the customer problem. That will always, always remain. But get your list and fill it out a little more. There might be some customer problems, as I said, that you just haven't even put on your list. Now, if you take those two, you sort of have your audit of all the things you could do, and you have your list of pains, and marry them, that's a really good starting point, a really, really good starting point. There are probably some table stakes that you just need to add, right? Especially with the LLMs, you just have to get them in. Users expect to have them, create a swim lane, just start moving on those. But if you start this way, you then can add and modify to your roadmap. I want to just share with you our story at Pendo. So we've been at this for a little while, but you guys, you won't have, if you haven't started, you won't be as stretched out as we are, thanks to the LLMs and some other progress that's been made. But we started in 2021, and we're really excited. We had topics now in our feedback products. So all the qualitative data, we're able to surface topics, and people loved it. It's really exciting. Again, saving product managers' times. We're able to provide topics. Then we went a step further in 2022 and offered NPS insights. So we were able to look across your qualitative data and the detractors and the promoters and provide insights that were actionable. And I can tell you firsthand, I've spent a lot of time in my life going through the NPS data, trying to find what are those insights, what can I do with them? I need to create a report for the other people in my organization. So to have that automated makes a huge, huge, huge difference to move to that insight. And then this year, most recently, we released a new product called Listen. And what it does is it actually takes it a step further. So not only do we have insights, we're now offering ideas that you can add to your roadmap. But even better, they're not just ideas just on their own. They're ideas that have evidence associated with them. So you can double click into it and find out, well, why was this idea surfaced? And then you can dig down. So then instead of starting just with this big swath of data, now you're starting with an idea. I like this idea, or I like that idea. And then you can drill down into it, which is really, I think, super exciting and just, saves an immense amount of time. And it's fun too, right? Some things that you might not have ever thought of. And lastly, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, are recommendations. Everyone's doing recommendations. We know about Netflix. I think, I love that Netflix was so early on in this because it's something everybody understands, right? Netflix, they offer you a rom-com, it's exciting, you try it out, maybe it's not a winner, who cares? You lost 30 seconds of watching a trailer. But what they've done is they've gotten us to a point where we're thinking about, hey, I would like a recommendation, right? But the difference is with Netflix, you don't really care how they got there, right? Who cares how they figured out what rom-com or what drama you might be interesting? It's just not worth your time. It's sort of low stakes. And I'll give you a little anecdote. So I'm so fortunate I get to work on our AI recommendations product. And what we found in our research is, unlike Netflix, when we present a recommendation based on our customers' data for them, our customers actually want more information. Well, how did you get it? Tell me more. I want to dig in more. So similar to what we did with ideas, but we're finding this with data. This AI assist is incredibly valuable. but people want more. The stakes are a lot higher. And that was something that we didn't fully anticipate as we started to build it out. Only through customer interviews did we find how important it was. And so when we do launch it, you'll see a data story with all of our AI recommendations. So even within recommendations, there's sort of low stakes and high stakes on what users' expectations are. Now, maybe in 5 years from now, people will just take our AI recommendations and run with them. But we are not there yet. So kind of thinking back to your roadmap around your audit, recommendations, what are the things that you could do? I definitely recommend you to think about what you could do to personalize the experience. So you may have first-time users, you may have your power users, different personas, different languages. You may be doing this already to some level, but I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's definitely happened to me, that sort of matrix of what you can support becomes pretty massive and unwieldy. And invariably, you think, oh, you could do all these things, but then actually what we can really support is 3 jobs to be done, 2 languages, and 2 roles, right? We're gonna go for those. But with AI, you can go big. You can go big, right? You can have 64, you can have so many different permutations of personalization, which is really, really exciting and new. And this is something I'll be very curious to see how fast users' expectations change here in software, in business software that they're using. I think the other thing to think about is it goes beyond the product, right? So a user journey, users' experiences, not just when they sit down and they log into your product, it's actually when they get the email in their inbox. It's actually when they go to the help center. So imagine you're a travel agent. I just talked to Agencia yesterday. I don't know if they're here. But if you talk about a travel agent in France, wouldn't it be fabulous if they got an email that's in French and talks about the travel industry, has images that make sense? Then when they log into your product, they're greeted with an app that also has that same imagery, the right messaging. When they go to your help center, the examples are examples about travel agents, even though lots of other types of businesses and industries use your product. The closer you can get to personalization, the higher you're gonna have, the higher engagement you're gonna have. And that's gonna help you, whatever you're trying to do, conversion, retention, adoption. You wanna get closer and closer to that personalized experience for the greatest and best outcome. And I also thought it would be interesting to share a couple examples of recommendations. So, we talk a lot kind of about the LLMs, we talk about recommendations as it applies to Netflix and Pendo, but it's also something that can be very, very special to your business. So if you think about what is the data that is unique to your business, well, what could you do with that? Really think kind of big. In this first example, this Dealer FX, what they do is they have software for car dealerships and service centers. And what's interesting about them is their special data is data people scheduling service appointments to service their car. And what they've gotten really, really good at, and they've applied their machine learning on top of their data, they've been able to predict the appointments ahead. So what does that mean? If you're running a service center and you have a forecast that's really pretty accurate and only getting better of the number of appointments you're going to get on a day, a week, or monthly basis that may change by seasonality, et cetera, you're able to staff better. If you're able to staff better, your users are going to have better end user experiences. They're not going to show up if this has happened to you. It's happened to me. It's horrible. You show up and you're waiting in line. There are 10 people ahead of you. It's Saturday morning. That's not what you want to do. They send you the NPS survey and you give them a 2. Right? But if they can staff correctly, not only can they be more efficient with their dollars, you as the end user can have a better experience and ultimately drive more revenue for them. So really, really interesting use case, I think, around how do you take advantage and how do you provide recommendations that matter for your business. The second one is, I don't know if you guys know McGraw-Hill, but they have a product called Alex. And basically what Alex is it's a tool to evaluate students, so effectively test taking, right? But what they do, their special data, is they can look across. They can get very, very smart based on questions that kids answer correctly, ones that they don't answer correctly, and find patterns in that. And what's interesting about that is then the recommendations that they can provide to the teacher can be very specific, right? They could say, hey, that Johnny Smith, you've been working on those quadratic equations, he's not getting it. He missed 4 of the 5 questions, and there was something else in another part, and it indicates that this is where he's having trouble. So teacher, I'm going to give you a report of all your students and recommendations on where you need to work with them so they can do better. So really exciting, and this is how you can create a moat around your business. Think about your data, what's special and unique about your data, and what recommendations could you offer to make a difference for your customers. So now we'll talk about prioritizing speed. This is just at the core of every product manager. I think we're generally really good at prioritization. And as we're moving forward in this new world, you have to consider every single option. The usual, right? Build, buy, partner. I think one thing that has changed is that partnership is a little different, right? It used to be, oh, we'll partner with another business. That's great, but think a little bigger. So think about Figma. Figma is using their community to help build their product. They're partnering with their customers to help add value to their product. Another one that's a huge favorite of mine is Miro. Miro has amazing templates that their customers are creating and adding value to their product. I use those templates all the time. It's amazing what other people have done with Miro. So as you're thinking about building out your product and moving forward, think a little bigger. Think about your community. What could you get? How could you use your customers to help you build your product and make it better? And try out new tools. So some of these are just fun. So when you want to prioritize things, it's really, really important to know what other people are doing. And it may be in a completely different space. But try out these new cutting-edge AI tools. Look at those startups. Maybe you're not going to use them, but just check it out. How are they thinking about things? How could that maybe apply to your business? I tried Chat PRD the other day. It's pretty good, like 80%, but it was just fun to see, wow, they could get me to a place that I wasn't already. So definitely check out these tools. Even if you're not going to use them, it will change your perspective and your team's perspective. I'll also say the other thing that is evolving and helps you as a product manager prioritize is to get feedback early in your development process. So, nothing too new here, but there is a rigor to it. When your resources are limited, you're trying to do so much, you want to make sure that you are getting feedback early on. And I love this concept. If you feel good about what you released, you waited too long. So, back in the day, we would build something, it'd be a big release, it'd be a whole big thing. Now, you build something and you get it out internally, get some feedback. Then do a closed beta, just who you're inviting to. You can build slowly of who you're going to offer it to. And it matters because as ruthless prioritizers that we are as product managers, you get more information. One thing I was thinking about as I was preparing for today, I worked at this one company, BevSpot, and we kind of I'm going to say we did the first one. We built it and we released it, and we should have gone a little slower, but we pushed it out. And we had a whole list of fast follows. We were really in a rush to get this thing out. We had about 20 items on our whiteboard. As soon as we get this out, we're going to power through these 20 items and it's going to be perfect. Well, actually, out of those 20 items, we ended up only doing 4 of them because there were a bunch of others that came out that we didn't even know about. So just that value of putting your engineering, your resources, on the things that really, really matter. You think in usability and customer interviews help, but really getting it out to customers, people are actually going to use it. That helps tremendously in prioritizing and using your time and your team efficiently. So another concept, there's been a fair amount written about this. Google AdSense did this, and so did Amazon Prime. Google AdSense time-boxed it for 3 months, said, let's produce Google AdSense in 3 months. And Amazon Prime, they had a big hurry up. They said, okay, we have 3 more months until the end of the quarter. We want you to finish this up, and really put this really sort of hard number around that. And so why does that work? Well, from a prioritization standpoint, my gosh, if you only have a few months, you are going to prioritize. You're going to go through those items that you're planning on doing, and you're going to do this like forced editing, right? All those features, what's the essence of them? Anything else is out. It creates urgency with the team. But to make this work, you have to set things up for your team, right? They need a committed leader. They need someone who's going to move those roadblocks out of the way for them. They need someone who's going to reduce dependency, get approvals. You can't just say, here's an initiative, it's Timeboxed, good luck. They need someone to really, really drive that through. You also need an empowered team. You need a team with everyone you need, right? It can't be short a designer or a data scientist. What you think you need, you got to get them in place. It's not, someone's on sabbatical, but they'll be back for the second half. No. Get that team set up. And then choose a timeline that, is not completely crazy, that people will actually buy into. You can't start it when people say this is completely impossible, but it should be a reach, right? And use it sparingly. You think of, college the last week when you're working through finals. It's insane. You learn so much. You learn more maybe than you learn the rest of the semester, but you just can't keep that up. So think about using it sparingly, but it is a great way to make progress and get out there, especially when things are changing so quickly. And lastly, I would say stay curious. So really think about in the next week, if you are doing any sort of triaging, try to figure out how to not do that. Go check out the tools out there. And look at your workflow and yourself and say, what could I do? Go check out some other tools. See if you can make your life a little bit easier. And then maybe you want to try to time box. Why not? Look at all the projects you all have planned and see if there's something that maybe fits the bill for a time box. So I want to thank you all so much. It was fun to kind of share our vision, and we have a booth out there and a raffle, so definitely come check us out at Pendo. But I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.